Hello and welcome to episode 400 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans' weekly podcast of many topics. I'm Mike Sollosi, and listeners, maybe you see the title of this episode and are a little confused, a little bewildered, but don't worry, I'll explain things and it might make it more confusing, actually. So before that, let's introduce the rest of the panel. Joining me today are Zach Wilkerson.
Hello.
Wes Iliff.
Hi, everybody.
Lucas Greene.
Hello.
And Aleks Franiczek.
Hello.
Alex, Lucas, Wes, Zach. The five of us are here to play a little game because, I mean, if the four of you know me, then you know I love podcasts with weird specific rules and games that we have to follow until it's gone on way too long. For the multiples of 50 episodes, we always try to do something a little different. And today we are having a shark party, which is a way of saying this is kind of like Shark Tank, but not really, and also avoiding copyrights as much as we possibly can. And, in all of the previous 50X episodes, we try to come up with some games that would be a good future episode of Retro Encounter. I don't remember what one every given year, but for the Battle Royale episode, Skies of Arcadia won that poll.
Suikoden 5 won at some point.
Suikoden 5 won, I think either 200 or 250. That sounds about right. Anyway, we're going to try and whittle a list down to a smaller list to do a poll. But to get that list and to figure it out, we're going to play a game. And that game began with me reaching out to 12 others from RPG fans, past and present, to suggest games for us. None of the five of us have a game that we put forward for today. They're all previous and some current RPG fan staff. We're going to listen to all 12 of the pitches, like we're panelists on Shark Tank / Dragon's Den / Hane no Tora, or Tigers of Money, the Japanese original. And as these pitches happen, we're going to bid on them. Each of us has $100. I'm just going to make it dollars because if I make up a currency or use Zenny or something, I'll definitely forget. And we can spend our $100 by investing in these different games. And then after we hear all the pitches and do some wheeling and dealing and mix around our investments a little bit, I'm not sure how many exactly, 6 or 7 or 8 games with the most total investment will be the ones on the poll. So we didn't really play test this. I'm not sure if it's going to work, really, but we're going to try. So before we kick it off, do we have any questions or clarifications?
No, I think I got it now.
It's all surprisingly clear.
Talk about games, invest in games.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm a little surprised that it seems to make sense to all 5 of us, but I'm going to roll with it while we have this positive energy.
I don't know if it says something about you or something about us that we get it that quickly, but
maybe we've all just been on a few too many podcasts that we make leaps in logic that others shouldn't. But anyway, I have these organized only by the name of the entrepreneur, as it were, alphabetically by first name. So unsurprisingly, the very first pitch is from Alana Hagues. So let's hear Alana's pitch.
Hello, Sharks. What game are you playing if it stars Cam Clark, Jennifer Hale, Kim My Guest, and Paul Eiding? If you said Metal Gear Solid, well, you're right, but add a Little Mermaid into the mix and somehow you get Grandia 2, a 2000 Dreamcast RPG and sequel to a beloved Sega Saturn and PS1 game full of the spirit of adventure. The thing is, Grandia 2 is very different from its predecessor, but it's also pretty different from Game Arts' other series, Lunar. It sits on the precipice of the next generation of RPGs and is beloved by many, but revisiting this 23-year-old game might reveal more cracks and more delights than you thought. We've already covered many other Dreamcast, PS2, and PS1 games, so a game that borders on multiple console generations on an overambitious system feels like a pretty perfect game for retro in 2024. Grandia 2 shows the transition into more voice acting, it shows an extremely confident and amazing battle system that still holds up today, and yeah, it's edgier than its predecessor, but there's still something adventurous and exciting about it, even if it's a lot more bratty about it. Grandia 2 looks at lost love, at how not everything is not as simple as black and white or light and dark. It's brash, clumsy, and there's way too much casual sexism, and sometimes it's really stupid. But God, it's fun. Those strengths and weaknesses deserve to be shouted about, particularly post-examination of Lunar the Silver Star. Thank you for listening to me ramble on, and come on, you must have expected me to pick a Dreamcast RPG for this.
So, Alana's pitch is for Grandia 2. We did some podcast episodes on Grandia the First some years ago. Zach, I think you were on those. And Grandia 2 is the Dreamcast and later PS2 follow-up to Grandia 1. There was a Grandia collection a few years ago, so it's an easy game to get a hold of. Shouldn't be an issue for anyone podcasting about it or listening to a podcast about it. Plus, I guess I'll put it out here now. I have played Grandia 2. I played it several years ago, but it's really, really good. I don't think I would mind playing it again if it came up for the podcast. The battle system still holds up. The voice acting is corny, but entertaining. Alana mentioned the unusual voice cast. We do have Jodie Benson, Jennifer Hale, and Cam Clark all in the same game, which is wild. But you don't have to bid now necessarily. But if anyone's interested in Grandia 2, we can start the bidding already. Each of us has $100 cash to spend. Do we have any interest in Grandia 2? Place your bids.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna throw 10 down on it. Because I feel like I have to, because Alana, I have to bid on Alana's game, but also like I enjoyed playing through the first Grandia. I think that talking about sort of the weird tonal elements of Grandia 2 is interesting. I haven't played it since I reviewed it maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and my reaction to it was very different. Is like, this is like kind of a weird game. When I was a kid, I was like, yeah, Ryudo, I love this guy. Now I'm like, I feel sorry for this guy. So I love the battle system. I think it is playable. It does a lot of Church is Bad stuff that I think is really cool.
Oh yeah, this is one of the signature Church is Bad JRPGs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I love me a Church is Bad JRPG.
Right up there with Breath of Fire 2,
Indeed.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yep. So I love all those games, and I love this game too. So I'll throw 10 down on it for now. We'll kind of see how it goes.
That just makes me want to play it even more. This has been on my list for a while, and I didn't even know about the Church is Bad, JRPG where you kill God kind of vibe. So I'll put 10 down as well to start with.
I don't think it's too much of a spoiler that Church is Bad, but the prominence of the church at the beginning of this game at least should plant some ideas in your head. And Wes, I think I see something on our spreadsheet from you.
Yeah, I've got to put 10 down for Grandia 2. I haven't played it since I played it on the Dreamcast, at least not in any significant way. I've popped on one or twice, but I think that this is a perfect game for like a modern evaluation of, because as everything that's been said, like it can be a little bit clumsy. Its main character is very much a teenager in more obvious ways than you sometimes get, even though I don't think he's a teenager necessarily. He has that angst and that attitude. And honestly, the battle system in Grandia games is just so incredibly cool. Having opportunities to talk about what makes it work so well is just exciting.
Yeah, whenever I see a battle meter with interrupts and delays and stuff, I think of that as Grandia combat, even though it isn't necessarily that. Like even Cosmic Star Heroine, I was like, oh, they're using Grandia combat.
Yeah, that was the reason I keep hearing about this one as a recommendation is because whenever I bring up Child of Light has a very similar combat system, and I keep being told, oh yeah, no, that's from like Grandia 2, but Grandia does it better, and that's always been really intriguing to me.
Child of Light, Cosmic Star Heroine, and Grandia 1, all previous Retro Encounter games. So Aleks, you're the one that hasn't weighed in on it yet.
Yeah, I've never gotten super into Game Arts' stuff, but Grandia is just the series I haven't really tried at all. And I'm kind of intrigued by kind of like the more gray kind of tone that Alana describes here, because I think like a lot of the stuff that has made me keep me away from getting super into Game Arts is kind of like a more kind of like vanilla Saturday morning cartoon vibe that isn't for me personally, but the battle system looks great in these games, and I'm interested in kind of like the weird tone this one's going for. So I'm going to put just a little fiver on this one for now.
All right, and again, none of these investments are total commitments. If you decide that there's something else you want to focus on more, you can take your money off of Grandia 2 and put it on something else. But with that said, I'm not going to bid on Grandia 2, at least at this time, only because I think there's probably 5, maybe even 6 games on this list that I'm more interested in playing. And a lot of that is because I just don't want to replay as many games nowadays. and firing up the PS2 and being worried if my old disc works and everything, and maybe resorting to buying the new collection.
Say it's on Switch and Steam.
I know, but still, I'm starting to spend less money on games as I get older, not fair. More. I have cats to feed now, but but Grandia 2 is great. Not a slight against that or Alana, but I'm not bidding at this time. So I think that's Grandia 2 round 1 done. Now our second game is from Rhythm Encounter co-founder and former Random Encounter host Derek Heemsbergen. Let's see what Derek is bringing to the table.
Hello, Sharks. Derek Heemsbergen here, former host of Random Encounter and Rhythm Encounter. You've played so many games since the dawn of Retro Encounter, so many worlds cracked open, their contents drunk deep. But not all drafts nourish, some sit bitter on the palate. And when games cease to delight and feel like work, where must one turn? Away! I'm proposing you take a vacation, Sharks, to coastal Japan circa 1975, to feel sun on your skin and salt on your tongue, to the unfettered idyll of a childhood summer. And I've got your ticket right here, a newly minted fan translation of Japanese PS2 classic, Boku no Natsuyasumi 2. Treasure every day, Sharks.
Okay, so that was Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, or My Summer Vacation 2, as presented by Derek Heemsbergen. And I must confess, panel, that this was the one on the list that I had not heard of prior. I was vaguely familiar of a Japanese summer vacation RPG. So when I heard this pitch from Derek, it did sort of ring a bell that I thought I had maybe heard of these, but I didn't really have any functional knowledge. These are adventure games where a young boy goes on summer vacation to a relative's house, and basically who you spend time with, how you choose to spend your day, affects the game's ending and the events that take place. But it's very low stakes, and for the most part intended to be a relaxing summer vacation of a game in more than just name. And there's 4 of these games, plus a 5th called Natsumon. That's sort of an unofficial sequel, but by the original creator of Boku no Natsuyasumi. And like Derek mentioned in the pitch, there was a very recent completed fan translation of Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, making it as available in English as it has ever been. And because of the sheer poetry of Derek's words, because listeners, I'm sorry to tell you, maybe this episode peaks early because Derek's pitch was really beautifully written. Because of the beauty of Derek's words and because of my genuine interest in the game, I am going to throw $10 at it for now, possibly to be increased later. And whoa, Aleks, looks like that you're trying to outdo me a little bit here. How about your interest in this game?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a fat 30 on this one because I'm super interested. I've basically been really intrigued by this series, especially since Tim Rogers released that 6-hour long review of it, which I was a big fan of. He made the first game sound very interesting, and basically at the end of the video, he says that the second one is even better, probably the best one in the series. It looks beautiful with its kind of art style. I forget the artist who worked on it, but I believe she is like pretty well known in like Japanese advertising, and her art style is really unique and charming. And I just really am interested in playing this game. Ever since I saw that they were doing a fan translation of it, I thought, yeah, I'm going to play that right when it came out. Of course, I haven't done that yet, but now this would be a wonderful opportunity to do that. So, yeah, throwing 30 on this one. Looking forward to playing it on Retro Encounter or otherwise.
All right, and Aleks, you and I are not the only people with early activity here. Wes, you also have a tenner on there.
I do. I put $10 down. I know so little about this game, and I feel like Derek's pitch didn't teach me more about the game, but in theme and in attitude and in artfulness, it made me a lot more interested in it. And I've done a little bit of research about this game. The fact that it's this soothing kind of a game with low stakes, it actually sounds really refreshing in a way that I don't often get.
Excellent. So, Lucas and Zach, neither of you have invested, or at least yet. Give us your brief thoughts.
I mean, I will admit that Derek's pitch is beautiful. It's like poetry. But, when we describe things like chill, low stakes, summer vacation, like it doesn't really sound like the sort of game that I would probably love. And while it's different from a lot of things that we've done on Retro Encounter, I'm going to kind of sit on it for now. I might come back to it, but right now I'm unconvinced that it's something that I really want to play. So,
yeah, that was kind of where I was at. I really didn't get an idea of what the game is or the gameplay from his pitch, and from the pitch that we got, I wasn't super interested. Like, it sounds interesting, just not my kind of game. But honestly, hearing all of you talk about it has me a little bit more interested. I may come back to it, but I think I'll hold off for now.
It's like an artsy, more character and narrative-driven Animal Crossing, from what I get.
And now I want to play it less.
I'm not a farming game person either, unless running a farm in Like a Dragon Ishin or Monster Hunter Rise counts. So
it's not like farming and management-y at all. It's more chilling than that.
It's more like working in the garden with your uncle or going on a walk
Yes.
with your cousin.
You got it.
And it being very unclear how either of those affect anything.
Yes.
I'm also a little bit reminded of Personas 3, 4, and 5, not because of any tonal similarities, but because there is a schedule and a calendar that dictates where the game starts and ends in Boku no Natsuyasumi.
Yeah, that's another fair comparison.
That was literally what I was thinking as you were describing the working in your uncle and not knowing how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm the type of person who literally, like, when I played Persona, I literally had to like map out and schedule out my entire playthrough, to the point where that's probably why I haven't gone back and replayed Persona. So I don't think I'm good at being chill.
I understand that to a degree, maybe to a less extreme degree, but I sometimes have a similar attitude with games that are mapped out in specific ways. So anyway, it looks like we are done for this phase of bidding on Boku no Natsuyasumi 2. It's time for the third game on our list, and this one comes from former news editor and Retro Encounter panelist Eva Padilla. Let's see what Eva has to say.
Hello, Sharks. Have you ever wanted Pokemon, but Nobunaga? I am bringing before you Pokemon Conquest, a 2012 tactical RPG that was a collaboration between Pokemon and Koei Tecmo. This game has a wonderful art style. It's full of personality and life, and you will have an absolutely wonderful time with it. You might not want to do the full 100%, but it's a beautiful 20 to 30 hour experience that you will absolutely love. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Okay, so that was Pokemon Conquest, one of the more unexpected strategy RPGs that I've ever heard of. I remember this making a bit of a splash when it came out just because of the unique nature of it. This is a strategy RPG by Tecmo Koei, definitely more the Koei half than the Tecmo half, because Koei does a lot of games based off of Sengoku era Japan and Romance of the Three Kingdoms China. They're the Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors studio. But this might be a little bit more similar to a game like the old 80s Romance of the Three Kingdoms or Kessen, because this is a straight up strategy game and not a action defeat hordes of enemies kind of game. But it takes those historical settings and replaces the warriors with Pokemon trainers. So basically a retelling of part of the Warring States / Sengoku era Japan, but with Pokemon. And that is kind of hilarious. I'm not going to bid on it at this time. I do have access to the game. My girlfriend has a copy, so it wouldn't be challenging for me to play it. But this is so odd. I want to take the temperature of the room first before committing to anything. But before, I mean, as I say that, we already have 2 commitments on our spreadsheet here. Wes, let's talk about Pokemon Conquest a little.
Yeah, I actually threw 20 down on this one, and it'll probably go up because I feel very enthusiastic about Pokemon Conquest. I'm a longtime fan of Koei Tecmo's Warring States period output in all its forms, and seeing like those character designs and those versions of those characters and getting to find out who like Hideyoshi's partner Pokemon would be is just absolutely delightful to me. Not to mention, it's just a really solid tactical RPG. I played some of it back when it came out, but I never finished it because I was a kid with undiagnosed ADHD, and I would love to be able to go back to it and be able to actually enjoy all of it.
And Lucas, you were the other big spender on this one.
Yeah, I put 20 down as well. This pitch hits me right in my wheelhouse. I love Pokemon. I've been a little unimpressed with some of the, mainline games recently. So I've been playing a lot of fan games and looking at some of the spin-offs, and I love tactical RPGs. So this is like, this is chocolate and peanut butter for me.
Lucas, you and me are going to make this happen one way or another.
I think that is a strong possibility.
we already have a coalition forming, and we're 25% through the pitches. This is one that I could see myself playing, but I think there are just 4 or 5 others on the board I'm a little more interested in. But Aleks and Zach, silence from both of you.
I mean, it's oftentimes difficult to convince me to play a strategy RPG. I've only played maybe a few. I like them, but like it's sometimes hard for me to get into them. And I've played 0 minutes of Pokemon ever, and don't really have any desire to. So for me, that's just really what it boils down to. I thought Eva's pitch was delightful and very well spoken, which is not surprising because it was her. But it's just not for me.
Yeah, I'm interested quite a bit in just the general idea of these games. I've never played any of these Koei Tecmo historical feudal Japan type strategy RPG games. And while I'm interested, I don't feel like the one that's about Pokemon is the one I'd want to start with. So I think I'm going to pass on this one, at least for now.
All right. So again, we will probably revisit it later, but Pokemon Conquest has $40 of investment already. So let's look on to the next game, which comes from Hilary Andreff. And here's Hilary's pitch.
Hello, Sharks. I'm extremely excited to pitch this particular game. First off, it's the only game in its series that hasn't had a game journal on Retro. So if it gets chosen, it'll be completing a set that's gone incomplete for quite a long time, years. Next, this selection's older, but offers an exciting action-adventure style story and gameplay that's aged quite well. It has people that can transform into flowers, pig-led prison breaks, flautists, a main character that can shapeshift into 3 different forms over the course of the story, and sharks. Clearly, this game is a good choice because it features some non-enemy sharks during an ocean travel segment. So, I hope you'll select it, and thank you for your time.
All right, so that was Hilary's pitch, and I realize now that she neglected to mention that pitch was for Illusion of Gaia, the Super Nintendo action RPG. That's the second game in the Heaven and Earth trilogy. We've already done previous episodes on Retro Encounter for Soul Blazer and Terranigma. Terranigma was one of the first, I think one of the first 5 or 6 games we covered on Retro Encounter. This is a trilogy that I know perhaps surprisingly well. I've played all 3 of them, but the only one I've actually finished is in fact Illusion of Gaia. I think I just rented Soul Blazer. I have Illusion of Gaia, and then I emulated Terranigma many years later, but didn't finish. Illusion of Gaia is good. It goes through a lot of real world historical locations and turns them into RPG dungeons. It's tonally very unique. It's a surprisingly dark story. I think the plot's pretty exciting. It's cool that you can transform into a knight and then later some kind of fire ghost or whatever Shadow is. But it's a fun, interesting game that I think is worth playing. I'm just not sure I want to put 10 on it because I'm slightly fearful of how well or poorly it's aged. But we already have some bids on it from the rest of the panel. Aleks, let's talk about it.
Yeah, sure. So I put 15 on this one because I'm pretty interested. Most of my exposure with Illusion of Gaia came from watching my brother play it when I was just a little kid, which was a lot of my video game exposure back then. But I was just like, oh, this is like Final Fantasy, but it's really strange and there's real world locations in it. This is kind of cool. So immediately it left an impression on me. I did eventually play Terranigma years later, and it's one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time. So I really would be interested to go back to play Illusion of Gaia and see how it compares. Just think Quintet is just a really fascinating developer in general. So I'd like to play all of their stuff. So yeah, pretty interested in this one, 15.
And maybe we're speaking from a North American perspective because this game is called Illusion of Time in Europe, and I think it probably has a different Japanese name as well. But yeah, Aleks, you're not the only person blowing 15. Lucas, I see 15 from you on this one too on our spreadsheet.
Yeah, Quintet is one of my favorite classic developers. I love all of their games. Even if this has technically, I think at least partially been on a podcast already, because there was a Quintet Encounter episode.
There was.
That's been quite a while, and hearing this one talked about, I mean, I've really enjoyed the other episodes about this series, and would love to complete the set, as it were.
All right, and our third investor, early investor into Illusion of Gaia, is Zach. What are your feelings on this one?
I have played Illusion of Gaia. I have beaten Illusion of Gaia, and my memory of it was that it was weird and kind of hard. And
a couple bosses are a little bit wall-like, but I haven't attempted this game in over 20 years. So
and I think like the final boss is like a boss rush. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've played it, but it's one of those games that like every time I hear someone talk about it, hearing Hilary talk about it, I'm like, man, I want to go back to that. I want to kind of, as an adult, I want to kind of see what that feels like. Because the last time I played through it, I was probably like 12. And so I just don't remember it very well, but I do remember it just being strange and just like, I replayed it a few times and I never really knew why, because I just thought it was so odd. But I think that just seeing some of that tonal oddness would be interesting. And I remember thinking that it looks really cool. And just sort of enjoying the way you engage with the world. So not a big investment from me. Maybe I'll come back to it and give more, but I am interested in replaying it.
Cool. Now, Wes, you've been a little silent here. Are there more games on the list that interest you more than Illusion of Gaia?
There are, and also I've tried to play Illusion of Gaia a number of times and bounced off of it pretty bad. Just that style of game isn't necessarily my style of game, kind of top-down action RPGs with a little bit of almost Zelda flavor to them. It's just not my type of game, even though I am fascinated by Illusion of Gaia and always want to be able to like get into it and really play it because I hear all of these wonderful things about it and everything that everyone here has said. That Hilary said about it makes me want to play it, but not enough to invest.
It's the only Super Nintendo game I know of that has Russian roulette games that you have to win in it. But that's not enough for me and Wes to blow fake dollars on it now. But let's talk about our next game to blow fake dollars on. It is from Jonathan Logan. So I don't know if you've been following RPG Fan behind the scenes stuff. Maybe you already know what Jono's pitch is, but let's hear it.
Hello, Sharks. I am John O'Logan, and this is my pitch for Retro 400. Congratulations on 400 episodes. So my pitch is for the 2010 Nintendo DS JRPG Final Fantasy The Four Heroes of Light. Four Heroes, I think, is an important JRPG for several reasons, the most obvious one being that it's a Final Fantasy spin-off that pays homage to Final Fantasies 3 and 5. It features a robust job system, turn-based combat, and a story that, while serviceable, isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's a throwback to another time, and specifically it's a time that just about everyone at Retro loves. But the other reason why I think Retro should feature it is what came after it, Team Asano. Asano and the rest of the team behind Four Heroes were planning a sequel that never materialized as a Final Fantasy game, but it did develop into the spiritual successor, Bravely Default, sort of Bravely Default Zero, really. If it wasn't for this game, we may not actually even have the Bravely series, Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, or maybe even the entire concept of HD 2D. I think that Four Heroes exemplifies everything that Retro Encounter stands for. It's a JRPG on a beloved older system. It's a retro throwback to classic 8-bit and 16-bit JRPGs. It's a Final Fantasy game, and it directly inspired the Bravely series and other titles that came after it. I think it's the perfect candidate, and I really hope that you Sharks will consider it for coverage in 2024.
So that was Jono's pitch for Final Fantasy: The Four Heroes of Light. And I guess I'll go first on this one. I'm going to spend some cash for the second time today. I'm throwing 10 on this one because I attempted to play this game many years ago and got decently far. I think probably halfway through, and I was mostly enjoying myself, but a part of the game got grindy and I fell off of it. I'd have to start from the beginning if I were to do a sincere new attempt. But I'm more intrigued by it than ever because this was Tomoya Asano's first big game with Square Enix as sort of a producer / director. He's been with Square Enix since the early 2000s, but this is sort of his big first high profile project alongside the DS versions of Final Fantasy 3 and 4. And because I love Octopath Traveler 2 so much and have enjoyed the Bravely games so much, I think I want to go back to sort of the patient zero of those two series. I think I would play this to completion now. And I know that Jono has been pushing for this game for Retro Encounter for a few years now. So maybe we can make Jono's dreams come true as well.
You know, I doubt I'm gonna keep this 5 here for the end of the show, but I'm gonna throw it down for now just because Jono's passion and his rhetoric arguing for this game's historical significance, especially now with how beloved Team Asano's games have become, was just so well spoken that even though I had zero interest in playing this game before I heard that, I'm just gonna throw 5 in for now, just in respect to Jono.
And Lucas, you're also throwing a tenner on this one like I am.
Yeah, I like the Team Asano games a lot. This is my the style of game that I really enjoy, and honestly, the idea of having a deadline for finishing that style of game means that I might actually finish it. I tend to grind more than I need to at the end of the game to try and max everything out the way I want, and I kind of bounced off this game originally just because it seemed like it's a spin-off rather than the main series games, and I would really like to go back to it and give it its due with the historical perspective we have now.
And Wes, you're joining the club that Lucas and I just founded of throwing $10 on this one.
I am. I've played this game before, but once again, kid with undiagnosed ADHD never finished it. I say kid loosely. I was probably older than is comfortable around this time. There are a lot of things that interest me about it. I love Final Fantasy spinoffs because those little nods get the serotonin going in my head. And the fact that jobs are essentially hats in this one, getting that little red mage hat, instantly pings me, that little bit of joy. But this historical importance set on it now intrigues me even more. I love the idea of doing this with the context of what that team went on to do. I think I'd be way more invested in it, and I'd like to see that progression.
All right, and Zach, it looks like you're the only person that's not investing this round.
That's true. I'm sorry, Jono. I agree that Jono had a very impassioned argument for it, but the reality for me is that there are still so many Team Asano games that I haven't played yet that I want to, like the second and sort of second Bravely Default games. I have a lot more interest in. If it was a Bravely Default game, it'd be lot more likely to do it with the additional polish and sort of it being its own thing to some degree. I have some interest in it, but I have more interest in things further down the list, which is why I'm holding my cash for now.
Yeah, Zach, you and I are by far the most spendthrifty of the group here. You and I have each only spent $20, and but like you, I'm looking at some games in the second half of this list that will have my my cash reserves dwindle very fast.
Indeed.
But I think that's enough on Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light. Thank you, Jono. The next comes from another managing editor of RPG Fan, Mike Salbato. Let's see what Mike's pitch is.
Hello, Sharks. Dark Cloud 2 has been on the maybe pile for Retro Encounter for years, and I think it's time to make it happen. You can hit things with a sword or a huge wrench, you can travel through time, rebuild the world, invent things through assembling ideas based on a photography system, upgrade weapons and items, ride a mech, and why not, play golf. Dark Cloud 2 has a ton of things you can do, but none are so in-depth that it's ever really daunting. Given Retro Encounter's track record of willing things into existence, I figure this is our best bet at making Dark Cloud 3 a reality. Well, thanks for your time listening to my pitch, and congratulations on 400 episodes. Here's to 400 more.
All right, so that was Mike Salbato on Dark Cloud 2. Dark Cloud 2, a pretty early level 5 game before they were co-developing Dragon Quest games or making White Knight Chronicles. It's a game with a lot of sort of city building and creativity elements in it, and a pretty good dungeon crawling RPG outside of those theaters. It's come up a couple times on the podcast because it's a favorite game of Tin Manuel and Steph Sybydlo and a few other people besides Mike Salbato. And Mike mentioned that sometimes we will things to existence in this show. A couple times we'll do an episode on something, and then we'll get a sequel announcement or a remake announcement like in the following weeks or months. So maybe that's why Mike is bringing this on. He really wants a Dark Cloud 2 remake or a Dark Cloud 3. And also, this game is called Dark Chronicle in Europe, if in case a listener is more familiar with a different name. I did try to play this many years ago on the PS2, but I bounced off of it because I was a little overwhelmed by having to place buildings and elements on a very large city map for possibly multiple cities. And I was surrounded by good PS2 games, including a lot of our PS2 RPGs at the time, so I moved on quickly to something else. But we do have one early investor, Zach. You put a 5 on Dark Cloud 2.
I put 5 down on it, first of all, because I thought Mike did a great job of selling this game. And, the truth is that, I think Dark Cloud 2 sounds like an excellent game, but it also sounds like a game that I probably wouldn't finish or be any good at. I'm not really good at building things. I get overwhelmed by things, as you were talking about. But it feels like of the kind of game that maybe isn't probably for me, it's the kind that I would like to at least try because its reputation sort of precedes it. A lot of people I respect like the game a lot, and it sounds like it's a very well done version of that, and I have some interest in it for that reason, but I'm not even 100% sure that if it won that I would even be on the episode because I'm not convinced I would finish it. So that's kind of where I am. So I want to put a 5 down out of respect for the fact that I think it deserves some investment, but I'm not sure.
Oh boy, is Zach the only investor?
Looks that way. I love Dark Cloud and I love level 5. But Dark Cloud 2 has always hit that, like Mike said, it never gets too overwhelming, the amount of stuff you can do. And unfortunately, it doesn't work quite that same way for me. I do get pretty overwhelmed by it and end up having troubles really sticking with it because I feel like I'm being inefficient or I'm not doing all the things I need to do. I'm not taking advantage of this invention system because I don't like photography in games, And I end up feeling very overwhelmed by it. It's the type of game I would absolutely adore watching someone else play.
I'm trying to put myself in my shoes 20 years ago. I think I remember playing it and enjoying it. I liked the dungeon crawling more than the city building. But then I got to the second location and I'm like, wait a second, am I gonna have to build 5 of these damn cities? And then I fell off it pretty quickly after that. That's only a vague memory. But I have a similar attitude to you, Wes. Lucas and Alex, a similar story, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I've seen this game played. I've dabbled in it a little bit. There is so much to do in it. It's such a huge game. It seems like something that I would enjoy spending a lot of time with, but not something that I would be likely to finish. And it does seem like a very large investment of time for doing a podcast on.
And there would be a deadline that could be a factor.
Yeah, this was another game I watched my brother play as a little child, and it was a great viewing experience. I thought it was a fascinating game, incredibly unique in terms of like how it merges those different gameplay styles we've been talking about. Looks beautiful still. I think its cell shaded art style has aged very well. But like you all said, I also get a little bit overwhelmed with all these different kind of mechanics, and it does seem like a bit of a time investment. So it's probably not one I'd personally sign up for.
All right, so that was Dark Cloud 2, struggling a little bit in the rankings with only $5 of investment in it, but we'll see if that changes. We are halfway through the list, but now it's time to move on to the second half with Peter Triezenberg maybe giving the most predictable pitch in this entire list, even ahead of Jono. So let's listen to what Peter has to say for episode 400.
Hello, Sharks. I'm Peter Triezenberg, and I think Retro Encounter should play Kingdom Hearts 2. This game is often considered to be the peak of the Kingdom Hearts series, and it's everything a sequel should be. It's got more Disney worlds, it's got smoother and faster-paced action combat, and visuals that still look nice even today. It also has one of the best soundtracks Yoko Shimomura's ever done. Final mix version of the game, which is included in the HD version, fixes small issues and adds a ton of additional content, including a new area, remixed boss fights, and a challenging secret boss. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Okay, so that was Peter Triezenberg on Kingdom Hearts 2, a PS2 game that probably needs no other introduction. It's by, I think, maybe this is me incorrectly taking the temperature of the community, but this might be the most loved Kingdom Hearts game. It was a sequel that expanded a lot of the world of Kingdom Hearts, really gets into the Organization 13 and Heartless and Nobody nonsense, but it is very loved and has a lot of cool worlds to explore. We already have some big money being attached to Kingdom Hearts 2. Starting with you, Aleks, you dropped 15 on this one.
Yeah, so I played Kingdom Hearts 2 at the ideal age of around like 13, 14 years old, which is when anybody should be playing Kingdom Hearts for the first time. But I'd love to play it again. I think it's like a really solid action game. I'm particularly interested in playing it on the hardest difficulty. I heard that if you do that, it becomes kind of one of the most interesting action games, like action RPGs you can get. So I'm really interested in that. I even played Kingdom Hearts 315 over 2 to the power of 7 or whatever it's called.
Do you mean 358 over 2 days?
That's the one.
And I am shocked and a little embarrassed to know that number exactly.
Yeah, I even played that like a year ago, and that was pretty interesting. Not the best game, but it was an interesting one. So I feel like I got the lore in my head still. So I would love to throw myself back into Kingdom Hearts.
All right, but even more enthusiastic than Alex's investment, Zach, you're dropping 20 on this.
I am, only partially because of you, and the fact that I know that you don't really want to play a Kingdom Hearts game, but I think you have some interest in playing this one. But I everything Aleks said is true for me as well. Like it's a game that I basically 100%ed, and I remember some of like the late challenge bosses that were added into the remix. I really struggled with, and so I would be curious to see, kind of going back to it now, how I would do with some of those fights. But it's sort of like the perfect combination of Kingdom Hearts, where like it's sort of like that early, very simple storytelling from 1 before it gets like totally nonsensical after that. And if someone tells me that it makes sense, then I'll tell them to stop reading so much about Kingdom Hearts. And it really is a very fun action RPG. I think that the battle system, whereas I think in Kingdom Hearts 3, it gives you so many tools that eventually it becomes sort of silly. Here, I really like the different forms that you can take, and there's a lot of strategy to it. And I played it on normal mode, but like Aleks, I think I would play it on a more challenging mode this time. And I already liked the depth of that system, and I would like to see sort of how I could do with it in a more challenging environment in sort of a critical mode run. And I just thought it was fun, and I think it's a good game, and it blends what Kingdom Hearts was to start and what it becomes really well in a way that I think works. And it's just so much more polished than 1.
It's very interesting to me, and I've thought about playing Kingdom Hearts 2 many, many times in the past, especially since I do not love Kingdom Hearts 1. That is well documented. and I think that the series sort of took a ridiculous turn in the later games. But 2 is the Kingdom Hearts game I'm most interested in playing. You were right when you said I'm not against trying this game, Zach. But Wes and Lucas, looks like neither of you are gonna bid on this one. Care to go behind your reasoning a little bit?
I was considering investing in this just because the running joke about you playing Kingdom Hearts is amusing to me. But I can't put it down right now. I'm not a big Kingdom Hearts fan. I really liked the first game and the idea of it, jumping between the Disney worlds. And when they started adding in its original lore more and more, I fell off of it hard because, like you said, it gets weird. From a gameplay perspective, everything I've seen in Kingdom Hearts 2 looks awesome, and I may be willing to move or to put a little bit more in to get this on one of the shows. I could be convinced, but I am not personally interested in it.
I'm actually a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts. I adore the series. Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorites in there. The only problem is I also find it to be one of the most discussed RPGs of all time. Partially just from people trying to understand the plot and like discussing it back and forth together. And to paraphrase, I think you should leave. I can't know how to hear any more about Kingdom Hearts. It would be a great game to play and discuss, I'm sure, but I personally can't dive back down that rabbit hole, so I'm not going to put any money down on it, but I'm not going to begrudge anyone who does.
That's very interesting to me. And with that said, offering no further commentary, I am also putting $10 on Kingdom Hearts 2.
Nice.
I would consider putting some money on it to make Mike play Kingdom Hearts 2. That is a consideration.
There is a real possibility of that happening, but for now, we're not quite there yet. We have 5 more games to get to. The next of which comes from our pal Fen. Rob Fenner makes his triumphant return to Retro Encounter to pitch this game to us.
Howdy, Sharks, and Happy New Year. It's Robert Fenner here, back again like a bad smell. Okay, well, you know me. When you first contacted me to take part in this battle royale, I came at you with a barrage of obscure choices. We could do Radical Dreamers, since it's now included in the Chrono Cross remaster, or we could do Garage Bad Dream Adventure, now that it's not lost to the annals of history. But I thought it over, and how many of your listeners want to play obscure adventure games and visual novels? I thought maybe we could do something a little bit more timely and topical, especially with the Year of the Dragon, and something that would actively encourage listeners to play along with the podcast. So, Dragon's Dogma 2 is out this spring, and I am a staunch believer that one should do their best to kill their hype for upcoming games. However, I also think this is the best possible time to play Dragon's Dogma 1. Have you played it? Maybe. But have you finished it? Probably not. I mean, I know some of the listeners must have, but I know I haven't. I've always been enticed by Capcom's meld of Souls-like, Monster Hunter, and open-world low fantasy RPG. I was never able to dig too far into it, as other things kept coming up when it was current, but what I played was janky in a way that I really appreciate, and its multitude of character builds and verbs feel like the opportunities are functionally endless, a kind of immersive sim fantasy RPG that encourages the player to find their own unique solutions to the game's many challenges. Plus, you can pick up any NPC, carry them like a baby, and drop them off a cliff. That won't make you too many friends in town, but it should be experienced at least once. Anyway, that's my submission. Thank you very much for your consideration, and congratulations on 400 episodes. Here's to another 400, and not a single one more.
All right, so that was Rob Fenner's impassioned pitch for Dragon's Dogma, a semi-multiplayer, semi-single-player, semi-open-world RPG that brings Capcom's Monster Hunter sensibilities to a fantasy setting. This game's weird and kind of busted, but developed a dedicated fan base over the last decade or so, leading to Dragon's Dogma 2 becoming a reality, allegedly, later this year. I was gonna put some money on this, but then I saw it skyrocket up to $65 of investment real fast. Wes, starting with you, you're putting 30 bones on it.
I am. This is where my money goes. I've been really excited at the prospect of playing Dragon's Dogma for Retro Encounter for a long time, because as Rob said, this is a game that I have played a fair amount of, but never finished, and I'd really love to actually go through all of it before the sequel comes out. But what I've played has always been a blast. The action is really fun. Climbing on giant monsters is ridiculous and entertaining, and especially the job system. The jobs that they have are really unique and really cool, and it looks like they're only going to add to that in the sequel. So I'd like to experience it here before I move on.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You can sort of approach monsters with parties of up to 4 with characters
Correct.
called pawns,
Mhm.
and you make one pawn for yourself. That's like sort of your hero's companion character.
Yes.
But then you upload the pawn, and then you can download the pawns of other players and have them accompany you. And if a player's pawn gains experience and uploads it back, then they get bonuses in their own game.
Correct. Which is such a cool idea and such a cool little social aspect to it.
That is cool. It was at 65 already.
It's up to 70 now.
Oh wow, really? Oh yeah. Everyone's invested in this besides me. I actually kind of feel bad.
That's why I changed mine to 5.
All right.
It felt dishonest.
But Zach, you also put 30 on this one. Looks like that this is maybe the game on this list you're most interested in.
It is, and it's it's strange. You told me 6 months ago that if we had this list of 12 games and this is the game that I would be most interested in, I would have been like, "What? No." But the sequel coming out obviously is a big part of it. But Fenner's description of it just sounded like absolutely the sort of like weird broken thing that I really want to try. And the descriptions of like the different ways the combat works. I've heard that the combat is super fun. The guy who sort of is in charge of DMC now, I think, it was the guy who worked on the combat and directed this game. And I think that it just sounds like a weird combination of a lot of things I like, and it is absolutely the sort of thing that I want to at least try. And yeah, I think it would lead to really interesting conversations on retro as well, which is a big part of my voting here as well, or my bidding rather.
He's not only the combat director of DMC 5, but Final Fantasy 16, one of your faves, Zach.
Right, exactly.
But Aleks and Lucas, you're maybe not quite as enthusiastic as Wes and Zach, but you each put a 5 on this one, bringing it to 70. And if we have $500 between the total of us, if 7 games get 70, that's 490. Do you guys have any objections if we make 70 the cutoff to make the poll?
That feels like a good number.
Yeah, that feels like there's a lot of enthusiasm for this one.
Yeah, I think you're right. But Aleks, what are your thoughts on Dragon's Dogma?
It's a game I've been looking to play for years. I bought it on Switch so long ago for a higher price than I could have gotten it now. But I've never been opposed to a little jank, so that's not a turn off. And the combat and like class system in this game just look fantastic. I love the idea that you can just build your character how you want, do different class combination kind of things like Final Fantasy V and that kind of thing, and also like mounting monsters like a Monster Hunter or a Shadow of the Colossus, like that is all like very, very appealing to me. So I was gonna put 0 on this because so many people bid on it so quickly, but that felt dishonest to me, so I threw 5 in just to give a little bit of support.
Yeah, this is one I was planning on putting a little bit of investment in, a little bit more investment than I ended up doing, but Wes and Zach were very generous, so I'm okay with limping in. It's a game I've been curious about, and seeing the stuff about the sequel had me interested in it, so I'd love to either play it or hear people's thoughts either way.
Yeah, I mean, I intended to invest in this game when the full list was out, but again, Wes and Zach were so fast on this one that I haven't even put any money yet. But Wes and Zach, I'd like you to have a little bit more cash to play around with. So would you object if I put 10 on? We keep the $70 wins thing, and Zach and Wes both change yours to 25.
I'll take my $5 back.
Yeah, for sure.
You get a $5 rebate on your $30 investment. So now this is the first game that all 5 people invested in, and I think we can officially make Dragon's Dogma the first game to cross the finish line and make it on the poll.
I just need Rob to know we were willing to throw 30 on it.
Yes. No. It is acknowledged you guys were bidding 30, but then you got some of that money back because Aleks, Lucas, and I were all backing you up on that. So yeah, our first unanimous vote is Dragon's Dogma, and it makes it in with the newly established $70 minimum to make it. And I think that means probably we're going to end up with 6 or 7 on the poll, which is a little larger than normal, but I'm not against it because this is just a different way we're playing this time. So we're 2/3 of the way through the list, and the next game comes from a different Rob Steinman. Maybe it was a little predictable that I would phone Rob to bring on this one, and like Rob Fenner, I let Rob Steinman go a little long on his pitch because I just wanted to let the Robs cook. So let's listen to Rob Steinman's pitch.
Hello, Sharks. I am here to try to convince you that we should be covering Demon's Souls. I'm going to do my best to enunciate that. So Demon's Souls is kind of the precursor to all of the Dark Souls games, all the Dark Souls likes. Of course, someone right now is going to start yelling and screaming that it's actually a Kingsfield game. I know. All right, let's everybody calm down. But the reason why I think we should cover Demon's Souls, Dark Souls, probably one of the most important games of the past decade. Its influence can be felt just about everywhere in video games. We have tons and tons of indie titles. We have tons and tons of what we call Souls-likes. From Software is now on the map. But this all started with Demon's Souls, and I think that by analyzing Demon's Souls, we can kind of see what were the things that they got right out the gate. What were some of the things that were maybe a little bit of a misstep? How did we get to Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Sekiro and all these games from Demon's Souls? But I think there's also a really cool area that we can explore a little bit of what are the things that were left behind with Demon's Souls. When I was playing Elden Ring a little bit, I felt some of the old Demon's Souls energy, and I was kind of disappointed that they didn't go further with that. I think Demon's Souls is the most RPG out of all of the games that they've made. But yeah, I think Demon's Souls would be a wonderful game for us to analyze on Retro Encounter. I think the Sharks would do well to give it some consideration, and I very much thank you for your time, and hopefully you make the right decision.
Okay, so that was Rob Steinman's pitch for Demon's Souls with a slightly sinister note at the end, indicating that he hopes we make the right decision. I enjoyed that a bit. But and I think I've mentioned on podcasts before, I played Demon's Souls for the first time 2 years ago, and it was my introduction to From Software proper. I mean, I had played a couple of games in the past, like 3D Game Heroes. That's really not a Souls-like. But I liked Demon's Souls so much that I was interested in playing more. I played Bloodborne for the podcast last year, and I am going to put $10 on this one because I genuinely really liked Demon's Souls when I played it. But also, I don't think I'm as interested in rolling with the same character again. I would probably start a new game with a new build, but even just doing that and reliving the highs of Demon's Souls again is fun and exciting to me. So yeah, this is an easy $10. That might become more later. And it looks like this is the second game in a row where everyone's investing at least some, although maybe not quite as enthusiastically as for Dragon's Dogma. Let's just go left to right. Aleks, your thoughts on Demon's Souls and why you're throwing a 10 in there?
Yeah, so I mean, I love the Souls series. I've been on record saying that Demon's Souls is like the rest of them is one I love. It's also one I've played years ago at this point, and I've only beaten once. So on that note, yeah, of course I'd play it again with a different build and see what I can come up with. So I mean, that's part of the appeal of Souls games, right? Is revisiting them and messing around with builds and seeing what you can do. And Demon's Souls is a very interestingly designed game. I don't love every aspect of it, but I love it nonetheless. And so I'd rank 10 on this one.
Yeah, this time around, I think I would do the Poison Swamp last instead of second.
Yeah, I'm definitely
that's the right call. Yes, that's exactly what I did when I played through it.
I think that's the change I would make. But Lucas, your thoughts on Demon's Souls as a future Retro Encounter game?
This was also my first FromSoft game that I had played. This was my introduction to the series. I kind of fell off with Dark Souls, and I technically never finished Demon's Souls, but I really got back into the idea a lot more recently. Elden Ring grabbed me hard, and I really like that game. And especially hearing his comparison of Demon's Souls and Elden Ring, that he specifically mentioned there were some things that felt like the DNA was there more than in the Dark Souls series. That really has me intrigued. It's been on my list for a while anyway, and I'd really like to actually finish playing through it.
Now, Wes, your turn.
I'm real lousy at Souls games, y'all. I'm absolutely terrible, and I keep trying and I keep failing. But that's kind of part of the appeal, right? And I find that I would get a lot more out of this if I had like other people playing alongside me and people to discuss and people to help figure out some of the more arcane parts of these games. So not only does that appeal to me, I think it's just a really cool series to talk about. It makes really interesting conversation, which I think makes for interesting episodes. So of course I'm going to throw something on it, even if I don't end up playing it.
Okay, that's an interesting angle. Now, Zach, I know you've played this game because you've played every Souls-like, or at least most of them, in the last 6 months, or
like
maybe,
3 months, really.
Yeah, like 3 months. So, are you that interested in replaying Demon's Souls when you played it just not long ago?
That is a good question, and actually, my original intention was not to bid on this at all. But I thought Steinman had some really interesting things to say that I actually don't know what he means by. Talking about sort of the DNA of Demon's Souls being present again in Elden Ring. And I was sort of racking my brain this morning as I was listening to this pitch and thinking about it. And I still don't really know what he means by that.
Me neither.
But I'm not saying that he's wrong. I just genuinely don't know. And I've played them both in pretty close proximity to each other. Demon's Souls is probably my least favorite of the FromSoft games. I think that it is weirdly static in a lot of ways compared to the other ones. I don't really like the way that the levels are designed in some cases, and I think it's ultimately just kind of easy once you kind of figure out what works for you. Like I thought the second half of the game, I just kind of blew right through it. But I have heard it gets harder in New Game Plus, which I think would be cool to kind of get more of a challenge out of Demon's Souls. And I really want to test what Steinman said. So I'm interested enough to go through and replay it. And I don't think it would take all that long to replay because it's the shortest one too. So yeah, I have some interest, but not a ton necessarily.
I think I mentioned on the Bloodborne podcast sometimes that I think I still like Demon's Souls more than Bloodborne. That's changed a little bit. Bloodborne's just better than Demon's Souls. But I really do have affection for this game. And it was my introduction to the sort of contiguous design philosophy of Souls-likes from software. And boss designs that like sort of reminded me of the best of Monster Hunter and Castlevania, but then combined into a 3D combat system that really works. I am intrigued to play it, and I would do it with a different build. Although I will probably miss my Blessed Mirdan hammer a lot. But yeah, it looks like that Demon's Souls has exactly $10 from each of the 5 of us, putting it in second place overall, tied with Boku no Natsu Yasumi 2 and only behind Dragon's Dogma. So we have 3 more to talk about, and the next one comes from Stephanie Sybydlo. Let's see what Steph has to say.
Hello, Sharks. My name is Stephanie G. Stemple-Bergensen, and I wanted to pitch the awaited sequel to the beloved PlayStation 1 hit Star Ocean: The Second Story by Enix. It would be my pleasure to present Star Ocean 3 till the end of time. An epic 2-disc adventure with crisp, modern PS2 graphics that will take the series into an entirely 3D space, with full voice acting and robust soundtrack from composer Motoi Sakuraba, with parts of the soundtrack performed by real orchestra, with a somewhat meta story that makes players think about the video games they play, and within a sci-fi scope that has our heroes fighting to free the universe from an oppressive outer dimensional force. But really the main focus will be on engaging combat and impressive post-game content that can take players anywhere from 200 to 300 hours to fully finish. Gameplay-wise, players can expect a higher than average challenge. We want to target RPG players more confident in their abilities and willing to experiment with the 8 unique characters' skills and equipment. One new element is MP death in addition to the usual HP death that can affect both player and enemy. These challenges will keep combat fresh and complicated as players decide what decisions are best in busy real-time action RPG fights. Thank you for your time, and congratulations on 400 episodes!
Okay, now that was Steph's plea for Star Ocean Till the End of Time, aka Star Ocean 3 for the podcast. And I should mention, I had to edit this one down a little bit. Steph's pitch was initially the longest of any that I received, but I cut it almost in half because she did this weird role play thing where it was like she was treating it like it was 2003, and she was actually pitching a sequel to Star Ocean 2 to Enix / Square Enix. This was one of the last games developed by only Enix, I think, or before they merged in 03. So like it was a little confusing and different from the others. So I did pare it down a little bit, but I don't want to diminish the work and enthusiasm Steph put into this pitch, because
I kind of want to hear the Sybydlo cut.
It talked a little bit about the multitude of item and skill systems and some endgame stuff. I didn't want all of these to be more than 2 minutes. With all that said, apologies to Steph for cutting her pitch a little bit. I'm still putting $10 on it because I have played Star Ocean 1 and 2 to completion, but not the recent remake. And I did play Till the End of Time a long time ago when I was in university, in the mid 2000s sometime, and I got to the twist and thought, and because there's a sort of an infamous plot twist in Star Ocean 3 that we will not get into at this time. If it becomes a podcast later, we definitely will, though. And I found the twist kind of wild, and but then I think my university studies got really busy, and I had to just stop a couple RPGs in their tracks, and I never got back into Star Ocean Till the End of Time, despite playing probably more than 2/3 of it. So I would like to give it another shot, and I think this is the right chance to, because shockingly, we haven't had any Star Ocean on Retro Encounter ever before, and that seems like a mistake to me. Even though like Tri-Ace is a little niche, these are really, really loved games, especially by RPG fans audience, which maybe likes the PS1 and PS2 eras more than any other. So yeah, I think it's almost an ideal future Retro Encounter game, which is and I got pretty far without finishing it many years ago, so I'd like to get back to it. But Aleks, I only put $10 on. You put 15. What are your thoughts on Star Ocean 3?
Yeah, so I wasn't like super interested in Star Ocean 3 going in, but that was a pretty good pitch. Steph mentioned a couple things that appeal to me personally. The whole idea of the story kind of being like a meta narrative about the fact that we play video games. What does that mean? Just like the more experimental gameplay mechanics like MP death and things like that, which just keep combat fresh and interesting. These are things that very much appeal to me. And the fact that Steph also vouched highly for Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter, which we discussed on Retro Counter last year. And that ended up being my favorite game that I played in that entire year, and one of my favorite RPGs of all time. Just makes me trust her taste. So I would love to give this a shot. So I threw 15 on there. And also the fact that I saw that this won Game of the Year in its respective year from us one year. So that seems to deserve a revisit, if anything.
I think that would put it in 2003, right?
I believe so,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it was like 02 Japan, 03 worldwide, but right around there, like right in the PS2 sweet spot. And PS2 is one of the best systems for RPGs, which we established in that in an episode with a title similar to that some years ago. But Lucas, you're also putting some money down for Star Ocean 3.
So I really liked Star Ocean 2. I am curious about this one because a lot of the later games in that space, like a lot of the Tales games, I didn't love. But this pitch really was intriguing to me. The idea of like the skill systems and being able to, customize and optimize your characters, or figuring out how to use them efficiently, intrigued me. And I definitely agree with you. The fact that we don't have a Star Ocean game on Retro Encounter honestly is a really good selling point for it to me, even though it is on the longer side of the games on the list. And yeah.
Also, Star Ocean's having a bit of a moment right now.
Yeah.
Star Ocean 5 happened, Star Ocean 6 happened around 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago. And then last year we had a very gorgeous remake of Star Ocean 2. There's some positive energy behind Star Ocean at Square Enix, which is a little surprising, but also super cool because a lot of people like those first couple Star Ocean games. And this is not going to be a defense of 4 or 5 here. But I'm interested in Star Ocean for the podcast. But Wes and Zach, looks like neither of you quite are. Any Star Ocean thoughts to share?
If we were going to play Star Ocean game, I think the 2 would be the right call. I just don't really have any interest in the Star Ocean series. I don't really even want to play 2 again. And yeah, it just doesn't appeal to me, I guess, personally. I agree that Steph did a nice job of talking about some things that maybe I didn't know about it, but I never found the combat in those games all that engaging or enjoyable, and the storytelling, even in 2, I thought was pretty whack. So yeah.
I really liked Steph's sales pitch, and it said a few things that really appealed to me, but it was all undone by that time last year I tried to replay this game and found a lot of things I really didn't jive with in it, especially the combat system. Kind of this 2-hit melee combo just made it really hard for me to engage. I still like a lot of the series, but weirdly enough, this one has kind of moved down because I played it when I was younger and absolutely adored it. And I find playing it now, it just doesn't match up to my expectations for an action RPG anymore, which is a shame, but maybe that's a me problem.
Right on. Again, I played this probably somewhere in the 06-07 range, so it had already been a well-established game. But I fell off of it just because that was a very busy time in my life scholastically. But right now I'm not nearly as busy scholastically and much busier for other reasons right now. So we'll see how far this one gets. Right now it's in a tie with several other games for $30 of investment. And with a couple games to go, I mean, Aleks has spent all of his cash, but everyone else has some investment dollars in reserve. So let's see how this second to last pitch goes. And this one comes from, Rhythm Encounter co-founder and frequent Random Encounter collaborator, Stephen Meyerink. Let's see what Steb has to say.
Hello, Sharks! I'm Stephen Meyerink, and I am here today to pitch to you King's Quest VI. It is a classic of the point-and-click adventure game genre, and it is basically one of 2 different styles. You have the LucasArts style and the Sierra style, and 6, or Gabriel Knight, is basically the apex of the company's style. It has the most cogent writing, the best world building, and the most internal consistency of the series. It's also very non-linear, has multiple endings, and some of the best puzzle design Sierra ever managed, which isn't saying much, but it's really good. It's very different in style from what many modern adventure games are, because most modern ones tend to be more an offshoot of the LucasArts style, which is a little more forgiving and a little more experimental, whereas the Sierra games will just let you die and fail over and over again. So in that regard, they can be punishing, but the puzzle design can be arcane, but this one has some of the best, and it also gives them a fairly unique flavor as a result. So if you are going to play one classic Sierra adventure game, and I recommend you do, play this one, or play Gabriel Knight because it's by many of the same lead creatives, including writer-designer Jane Jensen. Thank you for your consideration, Sharks. Pick King's Quest VI.
All right, so that was Steven's pitch on King's Quest VI, and I guess I've been doing this most of this episode, I'm sorry, but I'm going to go first here. I'm putting $10 on this because I like adventure games. I've played a medium number of classic adventure games, but really, I don't have a lot of Sierra experience other than one very confusing stint with Freddie Farkas, Frontier Pharmacist, at a friend's house decades ago. Try saying that 5 times fast. But
No.
but yeah, the King's Quest series are sort of the famous like Jane Jensen writing classic Sierra adventure games. Like I mean, people have affection for Gabriel Knight, which Stephen alluded to, and also Space Quest. But sort of like the King's Quest games were the counterpoint to the best of the LucasArts adventure games, like your Monkey Islands of the world. In the 90s when the adventure game design was sort of in a minor heyday. But because I haven't played any of them, and because I'm interested in playing one that isn't Leisure Suit Larry, I think I think I would enjoy King's Quest 6. So I am putting a tentative $10 on it for now. And my one brother in investment right now is Lucas. Ironically, you're not picking a LucasArts game, but a Sierra game, Lucas.
It's true. So this is one of the only Sierra King's Quest series games that I have actually played, and have played through several times. It's one that I played through as a kid, and that I absolutely love some of the puzzle and the writings on. King's Quest is awesome. Talking about adventure games is fun. I'd be really curious to see what people have to say, and it's again, it's something different that we can bring to the podcast. There's a lot of JRPGs on RPG Fan, so bringing out some of the other aspects is always fun to me.
All right, but it looks like you and I might be the only classic adventure game enthusiasts here, or at least the only ones willing to put some money where our mouths are for King's Quest 6. Wes, Zach, or Aleks, any thoughts on King's Quest at all?
So I'm not opposed to checking out a King's Quest game. I haven't played any of them, but I've got nothing against adventure games. In fact, I like them. I don't even mind the ones with obtuse and punishing puzzle mechanics. I've played multiple text adventure games like Infocom games before, and even enjoyed them. But I have a lot of adventure games I'm interested in playing at some point, and this one isn't just very high on the list. So, and I'm also broke. I spent all my money already.
Everyone here has at least $10 left to invest except for you. You're down to zeros.
Yeah.
But Wes, you have $15 in your wallet, but no King's Quest for you.
I'm not the biggest fan of adventure games in general. I like a handful of them here and there, but I'll admit the pitch got me a little bit interested just in playing, one of the pillars of the genre. But not quite enough to put money in yet. If this one goes up a little bit more, I might help pitch it over the wall. But as of right now, it's just not my kind of game.
I have basically the same response. And part of my thinking with some of these is like, I know it's going to go to a poll. And what chance do I think King's Quest 6 has to win a poll? I don't think it has any chance to win a poll. So that's part of my thinking with some of my investments. And I'm just not a big adventure game guy. I get bored with them and frustrated. And so that's where I am.
Yeah, I understand. My stamina for adventure games is a little limited. Like I've attempted but never beaten The Longest Journey, something like, I don't know, at least 3 times. We did an adventure games month about a year and a half ago. I think it was like September or October of 2022, and I really had to steel myself and force myself to play 4 adventure games in a month, or 3 adventure games in one sort of limited horror adventure. And it wasn't because they were bad. They were actually 4 very, very good games. It was just I can't binge adventure games unless I and lose myself in one like I can so easily into an RPG. So I like adventure games. I just can't play a ton of them. Otherwise I get really bored. I feel the same way about visual novels. I don't know. I would like to at least make a sincere try at this one. So I am putting $10 down. If no one else besides me and Lucas bids, then my money can go somewhere else. But for now, I'll keep that 10 in.
I will say, in response to kind of what everybody else has said, I can definitely see some of those with this game included in this game. Some of the problems that people bring up with adventure games. There is a little bit of obtuse logic. They're obtuse, but they're also witty and fun once you know. And I guess that's kind of one of the things with it is it's one of those games. It's like, The writing is amazing. It's got a lot of great features to it. You might need a guide the first time, which kind of defeats the purpose.
Well, I understand that it would defeat the purpose, but also it's 2024. I have no shame in checking a guide if I have to.
Exactly. And it's something where I feel like even if people haven't played it themselves, it is a game that's worth like watching somebody else play through at least. Just because it is really clever in a lot of ways.
All right. Well, I agree that King's Quest 6 is at least very intriguing, although I cannot attest to how good it is. Here's one game that I have played a little bit, but I'm not sure I want to invest in it. Our last game in our series of pitches comes from Tom Cox. Let's hear Tom's thoughts. And also, welcome back to RPG Fan, Tom. Tom was gone for the site for over a year and recently rejoined the news team. So we're great to have Tom back, and also excited to hear his pitch.
Hey Sharks. So today my suggestion I'm going to put forward and pitch to you guys is Stardew Valley. I think my reason for this is that when we think about like a genre or a subgenre of games, everyone's going to have their personal favorite. For example, like JRPGs, like my favorite is probably going to be a Pokemon game, but I can guarantee that's probably not one of yours. But I think when it comes to the farming subgenre, there's almost like a unanimous like decision that Stardew Valley is the best in that genre. Like before Stardew Valley, I played a lot of farming sims, and nowadays there's nothing that compares, and I always just, whenever I want a farming game, it's back to Stardew Valley. So thank you for your time, thank you for your consideration. Hope it gets through.
So that was Tom's thoughts on Stardew Valley, a genre pinnacle, as it were. But again, I'm going to apologize to Tom right now. I just am not interested in playing a lengthy farming game for Retro Encounter, at least not at this time. I've played the very beginning of Stardew Valley. I got it on sale on the Switch. I think like some people were very effusive about it on an episode of Retro or Random Encounter a while ago, like at least a year ago. So I bought it for the Switch, but it just never really connected with me. I don't think that entire genre or most of that genre is for me. So I'm not going to put any money on Stardew Valley at this time. But looks like I'm not alone. I don't see any other investors here. Anyone care to elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, like, if I was going to play a farming sim game, and a lot of my friends, including my wife, really like the farming sim genre, I am not going to play it for Retro. And I don't think that it probably really works as a game journal in some ways. Like I think it would be great, but it's extremely lengthy. It seems like it's kind of an almost infinite loop kind of game. My friends who I know who have played it for like 500 hours. So to me, it's kind of like doing Animal Crossing for Retro. Obviously, it's not our coverage, but I don't really know how you do it. And even though I have some very mild interest in it, I think it would maybe work as like a one-off episode, but as a game journal, I think it would be tough.
So that was actually part of the reason that I wasn't going to put money into it, because Retro 367 was RPG Fan How to Farm, and there was a lot of discussion about it already from people who are very invested in it as a kind of a one-off episode. And I feel like that is a good representation of it. I don't feel like it needs its own game journal episode. It's a great game. I just don't think we need a podcast about it.
Yeah, I'm decently interested in Stardew Valley, and I have played a few hours of it. I also picked it up on the Switch on a whim just because of its reputation, and I have had some good times playing older Harvest Moon games, which I still find pretty charming. But yeah, for the reasons you all raised already, doesn't make the most sense as a Retro Encounter game. It's also just so time consuming.
Okay, so that was our 12th and final pitch. We went through 12 rounds of investing. All of us spent between it looks like between $70 and $100. So there's some people still have some reserves left, but most of our money is on the board right now. Grandia 2 has $35. Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 has $50. Pokemon Conquest is $40. Illusion of Gaia has $40. Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light is $35. Dark Cloud 2 is $5. Kingdom Hearts 2 is $45. Dragon's Dogma has $70. So unless someone's investments change, that one is through to the next round. Demon's Souls is at $50. Star Ocean Till the End of Time is at $35. King's Quest 6 is at $20. And Stardew Valley is at $0. So now is the time where we shuffle our money around a little bit. We can let's take turns making changes to our board, but not everyone act at once, because that would just be a little confusing to follow. So whoever's ready, care to make some changes and maybe illustrate what your end game is, or some of your end game for this episode.
So I can go and get started. There are two games that have not hit the mark that I'd really like to see hit the mark, and those are Kingdom Hearts 2 and Grandia 2. So right now I have $5 invested in Dark Cloud 2. I am the only person who has any money invested in Dark Cloud 2, and I'm going to delete that. And I also think I'm going to pull my funding from Illusion of Gaia, because while I think it would be fun to go back to, and I think that Hilary had a great pitch, I just kind of want my money to go elsewhere. And I'm going to up my investment in Grandia 2 to 25 to get it up to an even 50. And then I think I'm going to throw another 10 at Kingdom Hearts 2 to get it up to 55. And I still have 10 to play around with, kind of think about what I want to do with that. But that's kind of where I am right now.
Excellent. So anyone else want to go next?
I'll go next. I've got a couple things that I'm thinking about. First one, and these are actually things that I would like to propose as well to other people. The first thing I'd like to bring up is Demon's Souls is, even though it hasn't made the mark yet, it is currently unanimous. If all of us with money left put $5 more in, it would hit the mark.
I am willing to put some money in.
Yeah, me too. I could throw an extra 5 at Demon's Souls.
Okay, I'll join you. I'll put in 5 more in Demon's Souls as well. And that brings Demon's Souls up to 70.
Exactly. Second thing is, I feel like I don't think King's Quest is going to make it. I think that was a good argument, or that the comment of I don't think it'll make it was valid. I think I'm going to move my $10 from that into Boku no Natsuyasumi, which may not be exactly the same vibe, but at least has a kind of similar, more narrative game vibe to it from the sounds of it. Keep one of those kind of in the running.
All right, I think I'll go next. And I'm going to make just one very easy decision. I if I'm the only person supporting King's Quest 6 and I don't want to blow, I don't want to spend $70 whole getting it over the hump, I'll remove my support from King's Quest 6. So I have $35 left to spend. I spent the least of any of us in the early rounds. I think I would like to see Boku no Natsuyasumi 2 in the list, so I'm going to increase my investment to bring that one up to the 70 threshold. I have 25 left. Other than the 3 that are already at 70, the ones I like the most are Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light and probably Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, all right. With apologies to Steph, I think I'm going to remove support from Star Ocean to the End of Time, and I'm just going to throw all 35 at Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light.
Wow.
Whoa. Did not see that coming.
Now I'm at $45 of investment at that one. Unless Lucas or Wes or Aleks pulls cash from that, it's making it.
I was gonna join you on that trip, but looks like I don't need to anymore.
I am probably gonna pull from Final Fantasy and Grandia, and I was thinking of putting it into Star Ocean 3, but now it seems like that's not gonna make it. So I might need to think about this a bit more.
Tell you what, I was thinking about moving some into Star Ocean also.
Okay.
Well, and 4 Heroes of Light has already made it.
Well, I mean, let's see. Maybe I could I'm trying to figure this out.
If anyone pulls from Four Heroes of Light, I'll probably be adding to it.
All right. I'm going to reduce my investment from 45 to 35 for Four Heroes of Light. And yeah, I'll keep it on Star Ocean for now because I am interested. Well, no, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm gonna reduce my Four Heroes of Light investment from 45 to 35, but then keep these last $10 in reserve, depending on whether Kingdom Hearts 2 needs more help or something else needs help.
Yeah, I'm most inclined to moving around to help out Star Ocean 3 and Kingdom Hearts 2 right now, just so y'all know.
Lucas, I think that Pokemon Conquest might be a dead racer.
I think we're in that situation. That was where I was looking at pulling from as well.
Since we don't have anyone in there, I think we've got to just go on ahead and take our money back. I'm going to put 10 more into Final Fantasy, bring it up to 20 to get us back into the threshold again. I currently have $20 left, so I've got a little bit of flexibility. You know what I'm going to do with that flexibility is put all of it in Grandia.
Ooh. So Grandia is at 70 now, or Grandia 2 is at 70.
The more I've thought about this, the more excited I've gotten about the idea of Grandia 2.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be popular with listeners. I think it's got a great shot at winning the poll too. I think it's a good investment.
And it's a game that's got a lot of interesting concepts in it that I think will lead to good discussion. So
interesting. So wait, Aleks and Lucas, we can get Star Ocean or Kingdom Hearts 2 over the hump because Wes and Zach have less money than the three of us. I'd rather keep my Final Fantasy and Boku no Yatsumi investments where they are. But do you guys have a preference between Star Ocean 3 and Kingdom Hearts 2, or a different idea?
Well, the other thing I'm noticing is I don't think Illusion of Gaia is going to make that threshold at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we should pull out.
I don't think that that it's worth putting the investment in if we're not going to be able to make the threshold. So I think I'm okay with let's round out, finish or keep Grandia 2, Four Heroes of Light.
Oh, so you're topping off those to help to get them to 70.
Yeah. And then I will put another 20 into Star Ocean to kind of bring that back up into contention.
So right now we have 5 games that hit $70. That's Grandia 2, Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light, Dragon's Dogma, and Demon's Souls. And a couple games that are close. Kingdom Hearts 2 is at 55, and Star Ocean Till the End of Time is at 45. And basically everything else has been abandoned. I have $10, and I think I cannot believe I'm saying this, but I think I am going to put my last $10 on Kingdom Hearts 2. So now it just needs $5 more to get over the hump.
I'll give it another 5.
Oh, I gave it the 5. We're good already.
All right, Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 currently in first place with $75.
In that case,
oh my goodness.
I'm going to use the rest of my 25 that I've withdrawn into Star Ocean.
And I'll top it off.
Yeah, so Aleks, you have $5 left if you want to just give something a shout out or have something tie Kingdom Hearts 2 for $75.
Just for quintet, I'm going to put 5 into Illusion of Gaia out of respect.
You know what? I'll join you there. I'll put 5 back in. We've got our 7 locked in, or we've got all of our games locked in already. Illusion of Gaia gets the shout out.
Wow, so this was both very interesting to see play out and a little bit less drama. There's no backstabbing, but multiple collaborations. This is super interesting. Wow, I'm looking at the board with some marvel. Like no one just blew 70 and then tried to negotiate their 30 with other people. Like it's there was group investments, and then a couple people just sort of put their extra money here and there to get something over the top until we got to a 7, and it's a pretty good 7. I think I'll just go down the line and say them. We have Grandia 2, originally proposed by Alana Hagues, with the largest investor being Wes with $30. Then we have Boku no Natsuyasumi 2, originally proposed by Derek Heemsbergen, with the largest investor being Aleks with $30. Then down the line, we have Final Fantasy, The Four Heroes of Light, originally proposed by Jono Logan, and with the largest investor being me at $35. Then Kingdom Hearts 2, originally proposed by Peter Triezenberg, with the largest investor being Zach at $35. Down the line, Dragon's Dogma, originally proposed by Rob Fenner, had the most broad amount of support from the entire group, with the two largest investors being Wes and Zach at $25 each. Then Demon's Souls, our second early unanimous pick, originally proposed by Rob Steinman, with the largest investor being a four-way tie of four different investors at $15 each. And within the last game making our list is Star Ocean Till the End of Time, originally proposed by Steph Sybydlo, with the co-investors at $35 each, Aleks and Lucas. So that's the list, fellas. We did it. These 7 games are going to be part of a public poll that we will share shortly after this episode airs. And then after about a week or maybe 10 days of polling, one of these games will be a future Retro Encounter game, possibly more than one, because games that do well on polls tend to show up later in sort of a, Retro Encounter echo of sorts. But one of these will be a game on Retro Encounter soon, probably April or May. So, thank you for playing this silly game that I didn't totally understand even as I was playing it, gentlemen.
Surprised at how friendly it ended up.
I'm not too surprised. I mean, I feel like we were all not thinking about what we wanted as much as what we thought would be good for the podcast. We all know enough about it that that's kind of the direction it felt like it was going.
I feel like everyone walked in with ideas, and then the ideas that had sort of multiple supporters rose quickly to the top. And then we all basically just came to an equilibrium that I hope no one was terribly upset about.
Oh no, I'm very satisfied.
I'm still planning on looking at Pokemon Conquest for myself. And I'll probably talk to Wes about it if I pick it up.
Yeah,
it just
I think
won't
so.
be a podcast.
I do want to be somewhat of an Asano completionist, so even if Final Fantasy IV Heroes of Light does lose, I probably will play that later this year. And I'm sure each of us has one or more games on this list with a similar attitude or similar feelings. Oh, and I also should mention Illusion of Gaia was a very honorable 8th place in this list with the final $10 of investment from Aleks and Lucas. But I mean, it's time to end the episodes if we've picked our poll. But maybe there's one last thing we can talk about. I mean, guys, it was 400 episodes of Retro Encounter. That's no joke. The podcast has been a major part of my life since I co-founded it with some other folks at RPG Fan in 2015, and I've been the showrunner of Retro Encounter since 2017. Thank you guys for helping me get to 400. It took a while, but here we are.
That's a wild number of episodes to hit. That's absolutely amazing.
It's a real milestone.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's crazy to think that how long I was listening to it, and how much I've contributed since I've been here. So yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, same.
Pretty new to RPG Fan, but have been listening to Retro for, that's, I think, the reason a lot of people have ended up joining the site.
Yeah, a surprise. I mean, it always shocks me when I hear it, but a surprising number of RPG Fan staff started out as podcast listeners. I'm among them technically because I was a listener of Random Encounter and Rhythm Encounter before I joined RPG Fan in 2014. But I know that Zach and Lucas, as well as some others on RPG Fan like Eva and Geo, and a few of the new hires, all were listeners of the podcasts before joining. And that blows my mind because I'm amazed when I hear that the podcast has any listeners, let alone listeners sending me stained glass artworks of Dragon Quest characters, or sending me their Avatar: The Last Airbender DVDs when I mentioned I hadn't seen it before.
Oh wow!
Both of which happened in the last few years. So yeah, this podcast has been a big part of my life. I did wince a little bit when I heard, I think it was Mike and maybe Rob Fenner say, "Here's the 400 more." I don't know about I don't know about that, guys. But
how much gas is left in the tank?
Don't make me answer that. But
there will always be more games.
We will never run out of video games. I'm certain about that. We will never run out of good discussions to have or good RPGs to play. And I am honored and privileged to have been a part of this podcast for so many years, and on probably something like at least 280 of those 400 episodes. I'd have to check the spreadsheets. But Aleks, are you relatively new to podcasting? Have you? I mean, were you really? I don't think you were a listener before, but now you're on like more than half of the episodes since you started it last year.
Yeah, I was a casual listener before. I was like an RPG fan. But yeah, I've only been here for a year now, and I've ended up on this show a lot more than I thought I would, because I have a lot of fun every time I come on, and it's been a great way of tackling the backlog. It's always fun to do so with other people, and yeah, I'm sure I'll be on more and more in 2024.
You're welcome to. Like, I mean, podcasting's fun. Why do you think I'm on so many?
Yeah.
But yeah, 400 episodes. It's a hell of a milestone, and I could not be more honored to do it with RPG Fan and its wonderful staff, including the four of you. So thank you so much for your time and the opportunity.
Thank you for all the episodes.
Yeah, for real.
And well, I this isn't the last episode of Retro Encounter, so I guess we do have to talk about the future. We are recording this episode in January, and right now we are sandwiched between two episodes of Moon Remix RPG Adventure. Zach and Aleks, I know both of you are on those episodes.
Yeah.
But I don't think you've recorded the second part yet. So how is that so far? I haven't listened to all of them yet.
I'm enjoying it. I think maybe I respect it more than I love it so far. But there are so many things that it's doing that are just really amazing and really interesting for a 1997 game. I could see why it didn't get localized, but I'm really glad that I'm experiencing it.
Yeah, there was definitely a bit of a learning curve going into this one. It's quite a unique game. As an anti-RPG, it really ends up being more of an adventure game than an RPG in a lot of ways. But I love its subversions. The writing and the localization is fantastic. And once I kind of got what was going on in terms of gameplay, I really started vibing with it and have had a good time.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing those episodes, but if you want to talk about a game that is not confusing and is definitely an RPG-ass RPG, the game we have planned for February is one of those. Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. I've said over and over on this podcast, it's probably my favorite game of the entire 2010s, and I still stand by that. I adore Dragon Quest XI, and I am in the early stages of replaying it right now for the podcast in February, and I'm having a blast. DQ11 still rules.
One of the best RPGs ever.
I could replay that game every year and still be happy. Or at least I'm putting that to the test right now.
I have only played it the one time on the PS4 when it came out in 2018, or it came out in North America in 2018. But I'm replaying the S version on Switch right now, and I am having a delightful time. So it's probably going to be a very positively toned episode. But before those, we have a couple things planned for February. We're doing an episode on bad opinions that I hope doesn't upset too many people. But that's still in the planning stage. And we're doing a new draft episode. Also planned for early February, but it's probably not a game or series that you're thinking of. I don't want to say what it is yet, but we are doing a new RPG draft episode in a few weeks. We haven't picked the game for March yet, but I know that we're doing Dragon Quest XI because in mid-February, the Year of the Dragon begins in the lunar calendar, and I think we're going to do another Dragon-y RPG in March, but we're still in the process of picking it, so I can't confirm what the March Retro Encounter game is, but we will let you know soon. But if you want to let us know anything, whether it's congrats on 400 episodes, or thoughts on Moon, or thoughts on Dragon Quest XI, or thoughts on why Illusion of Gaia wasn't able to make it this episode, the best way to do so is to message us, email retro@rpgfan.com. RPG Fan also has presences on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Discord, YouTube, Twitch, Threads, maybe Blue Sky, I'm not sure, maybe Mastodon, I'm even less sure. But any way that you can interact with RPG Fan, please do so, especially if it gives us positive feedback. RPG Fan also has 2 other fine podcasts: Random Encounter every 2 weeks about randomness and what games we're playing, and Rhythm Encounter every other 2 weeks about RPG music. You can follow Retro, Random, and Rhythm Encounter on Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Spotify or however you listen to podcasts. Google Play is now gone technically, but I believe that any podcasts that go through Google's system are now automatically uploaded to YouTube. So it's very easy to find all of RPG Fans podcasts on YouTube now, which is a fairly recent change, I think right around New Year's, that we're very grateful for. So please give us feedback or listen to our podcast however you choose. Let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah, RPG Fan has another great way to be supported through their shop. If you go to rpgfan.com/shop, you can buy RPG merchandise, including mugs and shirts and other apparel through a TeePublic store. Also, there is an RPG Fan book that collects about 300 reviews into review cards in a beautiful paperback document that you can buy through Hyperplay RPG. I have my copy, and it is spectacular. I strongly suggest you all get copies of your own. Anyone here read the RPG Fan book?
I'm still waiting for mine to come, but I'm very excited.
I got a pre-release copy, sort of, and so I really enjoy it. It's like so weird to see my name in print in that situation. So it's very cool.
I did not get a pre-release copy. I think I ordered mine like the first day that you could get a normal release one. But it only arrived a few days ago. So those books, if you've already ordered one, those books are coming. So I guess that's enough ways to support RPG Fan. Let's tell the listeners how they can support or contact us, the panelists, as individuals. So we'll share whatever social media we are willing to share. Starting with you, Wes.
You can find me on Twitter at Wes Iliff and on Blue Sky at Lone Weasel.
Now, Aleks.
You can email me at alexfranacek@gmail.com.
Now, Lucas.
You can find me on all social media platforms at Raefgal, RAEFGALL. And if you like listening to me talk about games, I upload a Let's Play every day on YouTube. Same name.
Excellent. Now, Zach.
You can email me, zachw@rpgfan.com. You can also find me on our Discord as ZachW.
And listeners, I have finally left the hell site known as Twitter, or at least I will have by the end of the month after posting this episode. You can find me on Blue Sky or on Instagram, both as @evokerfordogs. So, wow, 400 episodes. Thank you so much again. And listeners, panelists, other RPG Fan staff, family, my wonderful girlfriend, thank you, good night, and good luck for everything.